Secretary Clinton announced she's going to testify voluntarily before the Benghazi Select Committee. Will you also be testifying voluntarily?
I have not been asked, but if the chairman invites me, I absolutely would.
Are you advising the Hillary campaign?
No.
Will you?
I see myself, Brett, as an intelligence professional, nonpartisan. I worked for 6 presidents, 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats. I worked very closely with a Republican president, George Bush, and a Democratic president, Barack Obama. I am not going to be working for anybody's campaign.
Mike Morell, former acting director of the CIA, talking about his book, The Great War of Our Time. Let's start with the panel. Yoki Dreesen, managing editor of Foreign Policy, Juan Williams, columnist with The Hill, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer, who's the author of the book, Things That Matter. You may have heard of it. Well, it comes out today in paperback. We kind of like that book. We're back. What's up with this interview? Your thoughts, Charles?
Well, I thought the most telling statement is that what he says about Benghazi, that it was the most politicized national-security issue he's ever seen. That's after 30 years. And he includes in that assessment the WMD assessment about Iraq, which I think he said rather plainly and unequivocally was the finding of the department. It was not a result of pressure or administration wanting a certain result. So I think those are really significant statements from somebody who was there. And on Benghazi, I mean, it really it raises a lot of questions that I think are the ones people are going to want to ask Hillary under oath in front of a committee.
Juan.
Well, I think that it's clear that he thought it was politicized, but politicized by the right is what he thinks. He thinks that it's become a political football, and as he says, the analyst made a mistake. It's what he told you, that it was not the case that he was telling the analyst or there was any White House effort to tell the analyst.
But there was the White House element of the Ben Rhodes email and the advice to Susan Rice to get on those Sunday talk shows and talk about a video.
That's a different issue.
That's politics on that side.
But he's talking about the analysis that, in fact, the attack was not connected to a terrorist attack at the first. But in fact, then he later understands that the analysts were wrong and it was a terrorist attack. And that's the critical element where he is a central player. When it comes to the talking points for Susan Rice, that's a different issue, and that's what you're talking about with Ben Rhodes.
But weren't you surprised to hear him say that essentially the White House was lying to reporters?
No, I don't think he said that they were essentially lying. I said he thinks that they were playing games, playing politics at some point, and he says he wishes he had spent more time on the issue.
Wait a second, Juan.
Okay.
He does say that he essentially thinks that they were lying. He says lying is a strong word.
Yeah, that's
I didn't believe what they were saying.
Correct.
Did they intentionally lie? I don't know. You have to ask them.
Right. So but that's not his impression.
All right, Yoki.
I was talking about 2 things. One, when you asked him about the failings of the State Department just on the security grounds that led to the deaths, he said, we, the CIA, upgraded it. And he said about the State Department, if that had happened at the CIA, the mistakes he saw them make, somebody would have paid the price with their career, which is really a damning indictment. But I think the key distinction in what he was saying is between intent and fact. He was saying that Benghazi, the intent was not to lie, but that they got it wrong. And I agree with Juan. I think that is a major difference. And arguably, if you want to talk about Iraq, when he's saying this is worse than the Iraq failing, it comes down there too. I mean, on the left, you say that the Bush administration knowingly lied. On the right, they say it wasn't knowledge, it was a mistake, but it was not intentional. I think that, the intent against accuracy, carried through your whole interview with him.
What about the statement that this U.S. was not facilitating the movement of weapons to Syria, but he wouldn't comment about watching someone else do it?
Well, I think it's obvious what he was saying.
I mean, that's the most illumination we've had on that issue.
It is, and it's obvious. His denial is actually an affirmation by silence, which is we were watching. Well, that's what the CIA is supposed to do. It's supposed to watch whether or not we had an interest in shipping those weapons out to the Syrian rebels who ended up, you know, a ragtag bunch that we didn't support at all and who sort of withered on the vine ever since is a separate issue. But the idea that we would establish a station, I mean, the weapons were pouring out of Libya all over the world. They ended up in Mali as well and a lot of other places. So of course you want the CIA on the ground. It's a legitimate thing. I can understand why he didn't want to comment on it, but he spoke volumes when he said, I won't comment on it. Obviously we were doing that.
Next up, an attendance problem. 4 out of 6 Gulf states leaders say no thanks to an invitation from the White House. We'll look at that.